Hey guys, it's Julio. I'm super excited for the first Internal Jiu Jitsu interview for the new website. I'm here with my buddy Alex Ecklin, fellow black belt. We were on the same team for a long time, friends for over 10 years now, came up together. So I'm super excited to have him here because Alex has a super unique perspective on Jiu Jitsu, on what it's about, on how it should be repaid to people, and how it should be taught. So I want to welcome Alex. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you, my man.
Great to have you. Alex, tell us a little bit about your background, how you started in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, so I started with Gene Dunn in Brooklyn. I trained with him for a couple of years. And then after that, I moved to Shaolin. I was interested in competing and stuff like that, and that's where I met Julio. We instantly became friends and training partners. Julio had a really nice judo style. He helped me a lot on my half guard actually, because I was getting smashed in my half guard a lot, and I had to learn how to deal with heavier, stronger opponents and find nifty ways to get around it, and definitely trained so much with Julio. And then many years later, it's interesting because when I started to change my game and incorporating new things, Julio was the one that was helping me alongside with Van and Junior. We would meet up in Queens and we would train on a weekly basis and brainstorm. So we were evolving together, which was really cool.
We talked about before the way that those sessions were like the best sessions we've ever had, because nobody had an ego. We were all just learning from each other. We would all tap each other out on a daily basis, and there was no issue about it. Do you remember early on in your training, what was the ego factor like for you? Because that seems to be such a huge issue with practitioners, getting over that, even at the higher levels. So how did you deal with that? When did you first confront that in your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I'll even speak about yourself and about some other people, because I haven't spoken about it before, but it does exist. So myself, every single human, we all have egos, right? If you say you don't have an ego, maybe it's not true, or maybe something else is going on. But the amount of time that I put into jiu-jitsu personally, maybe I should have gotten my black belt or progressed up the ladder quicker. But many people, including yourself, surpassed me. So when I first met you, I was purple belt, you were blue belt, and then you got your black belt before me, and then I had to catch up to it. And then that's when I learned that we can't look at the person next to us, we have to look at ourselves. And I had so many things that I had to improve, and then when I got my black belt, I was very happy. But looking back, now I feel like I've made so many improvements over the last few years that I definitely it's changed my perspective on it a lot. I used to, when I was a lower rank, compare myself like, oh, I'm training for 5 years, this person's training for 2 years. I should be here, they should be here. But it wasn't always like that. And that was always something that I had to think about and always remind myself that I'm no better than anybody else, and I have to improve myself. And I want to get better, win tournaments, and prove it. You know what I mean?
And on any given day, the guy next to you that's smaller, or weaker, or lower belt could catch you, right?
100%,
it would happen all the time. Especially if you're one of the best. We were like sort of the OGs of the group, so we always had guys lower belts hunting for us, and looking. So on any given day, one of these young guys can try to just snatch you up, and it can happen. And if you're not prepared, we were talking about Chris before.
Yeah.
One day Chris he swept me. We were both brown belts, but I was, I had this idea that I was whatever. He swept me, and I wrote in my journal about that sweep, about getting swept. It affected me so much because he's this young guy coming for you. Yeah. But that's the great thing about jiu-jitsu, right? I had to learn to overcome that and deal with that and find out why that was a thing. And I found that with you, that was never like, even when, like, if we would catch each other and whatever would happen, it was just like you would come back with fire, but there was never ego, ever ego, and it was amazing. So as a lighter competitor, how would you deal with, like, I would always be 40 pounds heavier than you when you train, and especially being a bottom player, half guard player. Talk about containing that anxiety and that pressure of literally having someone pressuring down on top of you, especially as it relates to life.
Like looking at myself from a third-person perspective, it's kind of crazy that I'm even like a jiu-jitsu teacher, because the reason I say that is because no one in my family is an athlete. No one in my family is athletic. I am not athletic. I was never good in any sports. And as it pertains to jiu-jitsu, when I would train with you, when I would train with Van, when I would train with heavier, stronger, technical opponents, for me it was a success to not let you even pass, or not be submitted in the first 5 minutes. To fight for 6-7 minutes to get submitted, or to fight for 6-7 minutes not to get my guard passed. And if my guard did get passed, I would still fight tooth and nail to get it back. So I was almost happy about that. Where a lot of people will be like, you're crazy for being happy that your half guard didn't get passed. But to me, it's almost a success because I'm not a athletic person at all, and it's even hard to explain exactly my mindset, but that's kind of how I was thinking. So, and after that, little by little, I would never give up. I would always come back, and once in a while I would get a sweep. And to me, an equivalent of a sweep would be like a flying triangle. I would get so excited about that because I was finally able to do something, and it really, I was giving 110%, everything that I had. So for me, I'm really grateful to be able to realize my position, because otherwise I would have quit. If you're just getting constantly smashed as a newer student, especially smaller, weaker, or unathletic, that's what's going to happen. But will you come back? That's the question. Perseverance to me is a really important trait that I have, and something that I really value.
It's very idiosyncratic what you're talking about too, right?
Kind
the
of,
idea
yeah.
of surviving and using jiu-jitsu to survive.
Yeah.
Right? I think that so many young practitioners, especially, they'll get defeated or they'll get tapped, or even older guys. Honestly, I didn't get over this stuff until I was up around, but someone gets something on you and it's crushing your whole idea of who you are. So as you were developing as a martial artist, did you feel like you were finding your identity within martial arts, or do you feel like it was something separate from who you were? Was it just kind of all entangled with who you were as a person?
Yeah. So martial arts, it's a tool, like anything else, and it can be used for positive, for negative, for nothing. It could be used, it's just what it is. For me, martial arts was a tool of self-confidence. It was a tool of growth. It was a tool of self-improvement, and that's what I used to do anything in my life. So it was in all relationships in my life, with my family, with my friends, significant others, with the jobs that I was trying to create, with what I'm doing now. It's all credited to jiu-jitsu and to what I was able to get through jiu-jitsu. So some people will say jiu-jitsu doesn't necessarily make you a better person. Of course, nothing will make you better or worse, but it's how you use it that will make you better or worse. So I was able to use it positively, and I'm really grateful for jiu-jitsu. It's definitely, like you said, entangled with who I am and what I am, and without it, I'd probably be eating Cheetos, and on my couch somewhere by myself.
Still eat Cheetos, don't front.
I still eat flaming hot.
That's the secret. Write it down. Flaming hot Cheetos.
Flaming hot, because you have to challenge yourself in every aspect of your life. You have to find out the hottest Cheeto, be able to eat it.
Let me check this out.
Good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a lot of views.
So, tell me now, you had a lot of success as a competitor, right? You won the nationals, you medal, you won the podium with the Meows, you had a lot of success, and now you opened a school a few years ago, then you opened another school, and now it's a totally different kind of mindset, but you're still competing, doing super fights.
Yeah. What's
it like balancing life as an active competitor and a professional?
It's really difficult, it's really difficult, you mentioned that I've had many wins, I'm really grateful for all the wins that I have, but if you were to count my wins and my losses, without a doubt, I have much more losses than wins. In fact, I don't think I've won a match until I was a purple belt. If you remember, the first medal in IBJJF that I got was in the New York Open, and I was having an Omni t-shirt on the podium. All right, this was the first medal in IBJJF that I've got, and I believe I only won one match. I think I won one match and lost the next one. I got third place. It was a small division, and to me, that's the proudest medal that I have. And competition was just something to do. You know, it was just something. I'm training, so if I'm training, I have to compete. But also, while I was doing that, I had many people in my ear that were much smarter and wiser than myself, had a few years on top of me. They were saying, hey, like, what are you gonna do with your life? Are you gonna compete when you're 50? Are you gonna compete when you're 60? And they were telling me, like, you know, you have to, you know, teach. And, you know, myself and Van, like, we always do intro classes and challenges. And I actually really enjoyed doing the intro classes. I really enjoyed, like, seeing somebody that has no idea what they're even doing, understanding what an Americana is, understanding why to mount on somebody. And I really enjoyed it, and then kind of took off with it, and then progressed to go to Kobans, and then since then have 2 schools in Brooklyn. And I still enjoy competing, and I just like everything, you know. I don't really have any concrete plans with anything that I do. I'm just doing what I'm enjoying, and right now it's teaching and competing, and I'm really, you know, thankful for that.
Yeah. You also branched off and competed in Muay Thai. You lived in Thailand. You fought MMA as well.
Yeah.
What was the idea behind competing in MMA in different disciplines? Was it just to kind of see what it was like, so you had the perspective as an instructor, or was it something you were genuinely passionate about doing, or was it more for the experience? What was it about for you?
You know, I'm not gonna lie about it. It's definitely, I always think of this, the Man versus Food episode, when Adam Richman, he had to eat like 5 pounds of pancakes, and he ate like 4.5 pounds, and he had a little bit left, and he couldn't do it, so he ordered some bacon. And then he ate the bacon and he finished up the pancakes. You know, I always think about this. It's like, and for me, the pancakes was the jiu-jitsu. You know, I was doing jiu-jitsu 2 times a day, private, teaching, you know, probably, you know, I was young, but I probably was burning out. And, you know, I wanted to keep training, but I wanted something extra. And I would always watch UFC and MMA, and I was like, let me do that too. And then I would see my coach Lauro, I would see Shalin. He fought previously, Lauro was still fighting. I said, let me see what it's all about. And then I started Muay Thai. And then actually, coincidentally, I really fell in love with Muay Thai. I met a gentleman by the name of Charlie, who's one of my mentors as well. And he was teaching me Muay Thai. Koban was teaching me Muay Thai. I really fell in love with it. And that was my bacon to my pancakes. You know, and after that, you know, I was living in New York City my whole life, and I needed something new. I moved to Thailand, and it was the best experience of my life. I got to, and the reason I say that is because in New York City, you know, I was only used to one style, and the style was go, 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 go. The style was never give anybody a sweep, never let anybody grab your collar. This is how we were taught. And in Thailand, there was a very playful style. It was complete opposite. In fact, one of the coaches there, who's a world-class fighter who probably nobody ever knows about, he gave me one advice, and he said, hey, look, when you go back to the States, he goes, spar with little kids, you know, little touch, play with the little kids, move around, have fun, laugh, you know. And then I was like I couldn't believe it that he was telling me this, because everything that I was told in the States was, don't let anybody get an advantage on you. Don't let anybody grab your foot. Don't let anybody grab this. And this experience really showed me that there is no absolutes. There is no right or wrong. Everything is correct. You just have to choose for yourself what you're gonna adapt. All right. And I wish we said this, but Bruce Lee said this many years ago. All right. This is already what Bruce Lee said. So when I came back now as a teacher, I'm able to implement this, and I'm able to take, you know, the really lessons that we learned, you know, from training jiu-jitsu together, tooth and nail, not giving anything, but also a playful manner, and evolving and playing and figuring things out and combining it. And in my opinion, this is a very well-rounded style of both training and teaching.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember my judo sensei would always tell me, look, whenever you get a chance, come play randori with the kids, with the little kids. Practice your footsies, practice your timing, because it's just, if you're just getting out of the way and working, it's just so, they move so beautifully. It's a playful, childish way to move, and your body is just way more natural, right? And I feel like if you're not having fun, I used to tell my students this all the time.
Why do it?
Yeah, what's the point if you're not having fun? If you're gonna stress every time you go compete, every time you fight, it's misery, you know? And I think we've all had that period where, for me, I had that period where I was miserable for a couple of years. I hated it, I wanted to quit, I just would push through, and because I wasn't embracing it like as something fun. It was too much pressure, right? We all put too much pressure on ourselves. How did you get over putting that pressure on yourself?
You know, I looked at myself, and I looked at everyone as humans. You know, I looked at all of us. You know, no one is perfect, and no one will ever have a career that's perfect, and no one will ever know all the answers. And I realized that for myself, it's going to be a lifelong journey within the martial arts to figure out everything, right? And even when I'm finished with it, I'm still not going to know everything. And I accepted it, and as soon as I accepted it, I was okay with knowing that I am not perfect. You know, before, when I was coming up in the ranks, I was always really hard on myself. The same way you said it, you wrote in your journal after you got swept. I would the same, like, you know, I got submitted or I got my guard passed. I would be extremely hard on myself to the point where it was, you know, like it was probably my progress was going backwards.
Yeah.
I would go into the training session scared to anxious to get swept, and my game was not evolving as much. You know, but thankfully, I think what's one thing that's very important is that my training partners also became my friends. So it was not too bad for my friends to be able to beat me in the training room. And when I was able to accept that, that's when I was able to progress. And that's when, you know, I started to do the G roll and start other positions. I opened my game up, and then my training partners helped me, and that's when my evolution really started to peak.
Yeah.
Before then, I think probably why I never won a match at purple, probably because of that. You know, I was very close-minded, and it was definitely very hard for me to open myself up.
Yeah. You mentioned Van before. You've known Van forever, obviously. Talk about how much of a benefit has it been to have somebody that good? You don't know how, if you know Van Flores, you know how good he is. To have somebody that good working with you for so long, training with you for so long, just being there head to head with you. You know, it makes me think honestly of Cain Velasquez and DC, where they're just like banging heads, but they're both so good. You know.
Yeah.
So talk about what he's meant to your development.
You know, Van, it's interesting because our core values and beliefs are very similar, but on the outer layer we are very, very different. Like Van is very, very easygoing, whereas most people that know me, I'm easygoing, but not really. You know, I'm kind of like, I like it one way. I'm a little bit maybe stricter, maybe is the right word to say. I'm a little bit more, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe type A personality. I don't know if I am or not, but definitely Van is much more happy-go-lucky than I am. And we are able to, you know, be side by side because of our core values. But I feel like we complement each other very nicely because of our outside, of what's on the outside, right?
Yeah.
And definitely Van isn't a lot of times like, you know, when I'm like, Van, you know, let's do this, this, and this, and this, and he's like, wait a second, is that a good idea? And then I'm like, all right, you're right. And then we can you know, talk about it. And you know, Van is always the, you know, the guy in my ear to tell me, you know, hey, you know, chill out, or hey, no, let's go forward. You're right. You know, he's always, you know, helping me in that sense.
Yeah.
That's just from a philosophical, from a how we run the schools, etc. From a technical sense, you know, I never want to be on top of the guy because the guy has a really good guard, you know. So I would always pull guard on him, and then, you know, the guy has such a heavy top game, you know. And Van is the kind of guy, like, he picks up a skateboard, he looks like a pro skater right day one. Bicycle, the guy starts biking 100 miles a day.
Boxing right away. He looked good.
You know, Van is the only Van is one of the only people that I remember when Marshall and I first met him. We were like, is this guy telling us the truth that he never trained? Because we met him, he was only training for like 6 months, maybe 5 months, and Marshall was like, is this guy telling the truth? There may be only a handful of other people that I've met over the years where I was skeptical about, but Van, no, he gets it right away, right? And the cool thing about that is, as soon as we start to like leg locks, takedowns, etc., he gets those things very quickly too. So right away his body knows how to react. So right away it helps me a lot, you know, with the body awareness that he has to bring it in, because it's in my mind, but my body sometimes is one step behind. He has both, you know, he has the mind right away and his body right away puts himself in the right spot. So we can right away brainstorm, and you know, we've been helping each other evolve our games, you know, alongside with you and Junior and everybody, you know, for a really long time. So that's I think a cool part about it too.
That idea of changing your game and evolving your game once you're already a black belt, I think that's That's so huge. And I think so many people don't realize that. But what was that like for you? Because, you know, you and I didn't come up doing a lot of like blocks, and then all of a sudden, you know, embracing that game and just jumping into it full force. Especially as a black belt where, you know, you're expected by lower belts to know stuff, and now you're like, all right, you're admitting I don't know this game so well. I have to start kind of, you know, building up this game. What was that like for you taking that on?
You know, definitely, for example, kickboxing. You know, let's take kickboxing for an example. We have 3 types of kicks or attacks. We have middle attacks, we have head attacks, and we have leg attacks. It's as if you're training and you're only doing body kicks and head kicks and body shots and head shots, and you're neglecting any kicks to the legs. You don't have to knock anybody out with the legs, but the legs will set up the other attacks. So definitely when we started incorporating leg attacks, it was nothing that was revolutionary by any means, but definitely it was something neglected and something that was necessary, even to help our other attacks, which is our chokes, our arm locks, our sweeps, and our guard passes. I definitely think, you know, I always think back to a friend of mine. He's a black belt under the Miguel brothers. His name is Jimmy Serra. And he said something that always stuck with me. He said before he got his black belt, he thought he knew everything. Once he got his black belt, he realized he knew nothing. And it was his Facebook status. I was like a pro belt when he got his black belt, and I read it and I was like, I kind of got it, I kind of didn't. And I was like, but then I really realized it within the past couple of years, you know. For me personally, I've been a black belt for 3 years as of today, and I feel like my greatest advancements in both teaching, conceptually and technically, have come within the last couple of years. Not the last, the last 2 years. Does it have something to do with me teaching full time? Yes. Does it have something to do with the hours? Yes. It has something to do with that. Does it have to do with that? We've been training and I've been doing more no-gi leg attacks. Yes. But definitely in the last couple of years, I really feel like I've been growing a lot and evolving a lot, both as a practitioner and as a teacher too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also with age, like as your life moves along in a parallel path with your training, if you're evolving as a human being, your training has to evolve and vice versa, and they're both affecting each other. And if you're open to growth as a human, your training is going to grow. And unfortunately, some people aren't open to that, and they don't grow overall.
Yeah.
So there's this weird disconnect. I think that's something that's missing from a lot of younger guys, especially guys that fight MMA, where they don't have that idea of developing as a person at the same time as they're developing as a martial artist.
Yeah.
So what was your conception of what you wanted your school to be like when you were thinking about opening Masterskya? How did that idea pop into your head? And then the idea of a donation-based school, how did that evolve?
Yeah, so, everyone complains, including myself. And I would always have complaints, like, I wish I could do this, and this. And with these complaints, took action. And the action was the school, right? So once we opened up the schools, we just wanted a place where it would be for us. It would be something that we wanted. All the things that in our journeys as martial artists we didn't like, rules, this, that, so forth, so on and so forth, we wanted to take all of that away. So our structure has something to do with that. It's really a place for me to train. I just want to share with everybody else. I think, if you have something amazing, if you have something great, it's selfish to only hold it for yourself. You should give it out, right? As I was working for Shaolin, I used to work the front desk at Shaolin's. The number one reason that people wouldn't train had always to do with money. The number two reason was always my spouse, my kids, family matters. So the spouse and the family matters, I think it's an almost impossible problem to solve. It's very difficult. I'm not going to tell my student or somebody to, hey, get divorced so that you can train more. It's very difficult. But
I would suggest doing that.
Maybe Sensei would, Myself, I don't know, if I could do that.
You'll get that.
Maybe one day. But definitely, the money, I don't believe that money should be a reason for somebody not to learn how to defend themselves, how to better themselves. A fun thing such as martial arts, such as Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I don't believe that money should get into the way. So one of the fairer ways is a donation-based model where if you are fortunate enough that you can contribute, and by the way, our prices are as low as they can get. Period. If you can afford that, you can, and if you can't, you can still come. We have so many classes that are suggested on suggested donations. Plus, if somebody still wants to train, we never say no to anybody. So I definitely think this is the right way for the martial arts. Sadly, many martial arts instructors over the years felt like they were taken advantage of, which caused them to adapt a more corporate system, which I don't blame them for. I'm very fortunate, and Van is very fortunate that we are able to give back in this way, at this moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's definitely going to take off. I mean, you guys are gaining tons of popularity. I'm so proud of both of you.
Thank you.
It's amazing to see what you guys have done. Check out Masterskya in Brooklyn, 2 locations. It's incredible, great training, just state-of-the-art stuff, incredible stuff. Alex, thank you, brother.
Thank you, my man.
Love you, man. Good luck.
So I want to just say one thing, what I want to say is this, for example, let's take Bitcoin. We'll take Bitcoin as an example, or we'll take the Apple stock, anything. Once it's already popular, once it's already established, everyone everyone jumps on it. But what happened to the Bitcoin, what happened to the Apple, what happened to these things when they were just starting out? And to me, this is very important, you, as well as several other people, you believed in me when I was nothing, and I'm still nothing. I'm still working to get to somewhere, but definitely I'm working hard to get to my $100,000 evaluation that Bitcoin is projected to be. Now I'm teetering on $7,000, but definitely I'm working my way up. But definitely, I really appreciate that you've invested in me, helped me, and talked to me since day one. It's something I will never forget.
Bro, thank you for proving me right.
All right. All right.
See you guys.
Mario Guerrero, still have a chance.
That was perfect, man. Thank you, brother.